Welcome back to another SuperCoach video with me, JD. You're joining me for the round 23 review. That's right, we've made it. It's the last round of the year. It's sad to be over, but also in some ways exciting to be heading towards the off season and being able to prepare for a new year. You'd think that there's not much to talk about this episode. There's a couple of things we'll go through. So I'll cover off the plans for the off season quickly just to give you an update on what's going to happen. I'll go over my results for the year, both for SuperCoach and for Fantasy. And then what I thought I'd do is for the SuperCoach side, we'll just quickly look at the top players on each of their lines and just see who stands out as the ones we didn't really think about or anticipate would get there. Who were the big surprises and who were the kind of must-have picks from those that if you started, you really got a good leg up. But firstly, a big thank you to everyone that's watched, supported, subbed, tweeted at me, left comments, all that good stuff over the last year. It's been great to be engaged, involved with the community, and to get so much back from you has been really nice. Really appreciated it, and it does make SuperCoach that much more fun. So I appreciate everyone that's got involved and continues to get involved, and looking forward to kicking some goals next year. So plans for the off season. This will be my last of the weekly videos, the review videos. I try and just make sure I do at least one video a year, but I'll obviously take a bit of a break now between now and the start of next year, just given there's not a lot to cover. We will, however, continue to do the weekly pods on George's channel over the next month or so. So we'll cover finals and we'll get to talk just a bit of footy rather than SuperCoach specifically. But we are looking to play the AFL Finals Fantasy format, which is being run by Moraes Magic. If you don't know him, he won the AFL Fantasy in back-to-back years and has been running the AFLW Fantasy and is now doing Finals Fantasy as well, which is pretty exciting stuff because it gives us something to do over the next month. Not that watching finals alone isn't enough, but it is quite fun to play that format. We're going to interview him on George's channel, hopefully on Monday this week. So the podcast coming up that'll go over what that format is, how it's played. So if you're interested in getting involved, then follow there. Otherwise, I'll continue to do some occasional videos during like relevant moments of the off season. So this will be things like player movements, when the rookie drafts happen, all that type of stuff. I'll try and do short videos on just some of my initial thoughts on the SuperCoach relevant players, but we won't go into that, we won't go into deep analysis, or at least I don't think I will. Maybe I get really desperate to make videos in the off season and I might, but yeah, we probably won't do too much of that stuff until next year and just try to enjoy the break. I do play a little bit of NFL fantasy during the off season. That's probably the only thing I'll do, but that's very casual compared to, I'd say, the AFL side. So yeah, as I mentioned, subscribe and chucking the notifications on. I try and never tell people to do that in the videos, but if you are interested in getting those during the off season, I suggest doing it. The algorithm for YouTube probably won't look favorably on me just because I'm going to take such a large break. So that'll be the best way to get those videos straight to you over that period. And just when things start up next year, you'll be one of the first to get them. All right, in terms of results for the year, so as you can see on the SuperCoach side, finished around 1800, which was an okay result given that I was 27k at round 7 or 8. I was still around 20k during the buys, so came home really strong to finish with that 1800. And I've moved, I believe, into the top 100 in the Hall of Fame on SuperCoach data. So that looks at your ranks over the last 4 years and then stacks up all the coaches over that period of time with a proprietary scoring system. It's not just as simple as the lowest of each year. I think there is some scaling on those scores, but if you haven't checked it out, you definitely should. But yeah, so in the top 100 for that, which is great. I think there's a lot of people out there giving advice that aren't always highly credentialed, and there are still a lot of coaches better than me. Right, I'm in the top 100. I'm not first, but to be both giving out content or to be doing content and then also be highly ranked, I'm really proud of. I finished in fantasy. I finished 62nd overall. So the big thing for AFL Fantasy is getting a hat with your overall rank number printed on it. And you get that if you finish in the top 100. So to finish 62nd or the top 100 in the first year is a really big achievement. It's a little bit bittersweet because I was ranked 12th 2 or 3 weeks ago. But the team kind of fell apart in the last couple of weeks, which is really unfortunate. I mean, just looking at my final round scores, it's kind of amazing I held on top 100, given how bad this score is. I think 11 or half my team went under 81 or under, and like 17 out of 22 or something scored under 100. Wait, how many? Yeah. I only had Doherty, Laird, Steele, Merritt, Took as 100. Oh no, I had more. How did I must have counted this up wrong. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So 15 went sub-ton. I only had 7 tons. That's pretty crazy how bad this was. But yeah, a lot of poor scores. Redmond and Marshall both dropping 47s. Walsh laid out, so I took Owens 55. Yeah, just lots of bad scores. The 67s from Dawson and Himmelberg. Not having players like Sicily and stuff. But yeah, for it to be my first year and to still end up with a hat is a really good achievement. Really proud of that. And then finally on the SuperCoach side, so the league results, I think I flagged this a couple of times, but we had the number 1 6, 10, and 12-man leagues that I was in, and we also had the number 2 18-man leagues. So that's a really good achievement. Yeah, even though my personal rank was just so, community as a whole still definitely right up at the pointy end this year, doing really well, taking out all those league wins. So thanks to everyone that's got involved, and shout out to everyone in the Discord. All right, so in terms of what I thought I'd do is just have a look at the top players. And oh, by the way, my final trade was Sinclair to Sicily. Did Sinclair end up outscoring this? He didn't get tagged, which is the most ridiculous thing ever. 180, no. So I ended up making 19 or the 16 points on that. But yeah, have a look through each of the lines, and and congrats to Ray, by the way, took it out. Where did Selby finish? 8th. That's really good. So this is Moro's magic, by the way. The guy that was back-to-back number 1 fantasy, he's also first-year SuperCoach and went 8th overall. So he's insane. Sorry, I was going to look at players. Have a look top of the line and figure out who's kind of a surprise, who we look at for next year. We could start to talk about players I like for next year, and look, if they come up naturally, we'll talk about them. But yeah, I'm not going to go out of my way to find them. All right, so there's 2 ways to do this. There's to look at overall or total points that they scored for the year. There's also look at average. We might do a bit of both because you do sometimes find there are players that were up there on the average that missed for whatever reason, but they were still, ultimately a really good pick. So of the total points here, so Sinclair, Sicily, Doherty, Dawson, Dale, Brayshaw. And there's a few surprises in here. I think... obviously, like, I knew Sicily could score top 6. I just didn't think he was going to score this well and play all 22. So to see him up there was like really bad miss for me all year. Dale Diamond from the Discord had him, and him finished top 6 kind of amazing. And Brayshaw is like the really big standout here. His roll across the back line and then into the midfield just didn't see him getting back to this scoring. So yeah, really, really good. And he is actually one on the list for next year for starting. If he keeps that midfield role, he's 3 and 5 round average are well above this 100 point. So yeah, he's one to look at for next year. Dawson I started. Doherty I think a lot of people missed. And then Sinclair, like I picked up later. Yeah. Short and Crisp. Short, I guess, was okay in the end. So he's 7th on total points, even though this average is a bit bad. So it wasn't a bad pick. And then Crisp was down 11th. This is, I think, a worse pick in the end. It's just disappointing. All right, looking at average quickly. So who are the ones in here? So Hewitt, I didn't start, but that was obviously a really good starting pick. Just you made so much money on him. Stewart was tough because just missed so many games throughout the year, which is probably the big knock on him. So not starting him was all right. And then Hearn was right up there in average, but like old man misses games. Yeah, like it was a fine miss. All right. So just to go back, Sinclair, Sicily, Doherty, Dawson. Dawson was the start that I'm probably most proud of. Dale and Brayshaw. Yeah, I think realistically, like Sicily, Dawson, and Short was probably startable, and I'm sure some teams did it. The others were hard to see too many people starting, although I know some started Doherty. All right, let's have a look at the midfield. This is always a little bit annoying because you do get the DPPs in here as well. So Neil ended up scoring the most, which makes sense because Oliver missed a game. So Neil, which was a great pick, but everyone had Neil, so yeah, it was really hard not to start him. Oliver... Mills at 4th is surprising. Laird, I guess like Laird missed too early. He was right up the top. Like, it wasn't a startable pick just because of his hand. But yeah, McRae, Petrarca is 7th. Wow. And then Brayshaw at 8th. And then the 9th was Cripps, who was a very, very good start for those that started him. So I think probably it's funny because McRae's felt like a bit of a failed pick over the back half, even though he was okay. It's just that he's lost so much money, so he wasn't a great start. The other one that's in here that's not in here is Steele. That was probably like the worst of the starting picks that people had. But it's really interesting because like Oliver, Miller, Steele, they and like all dropped price pretty early. McRae not so much. So McRae was probably still the better of the picks alongside Neil. Mills was one that I think a lot of people missed, and then Laird was obviously better later. And then Petrarca's like interesting. He started hot, was bad in the middle, and then good kind of coming home. Having a look at average, how does it change? I mean, Laird makes sense. Oliver makes sense. They were like clearly the two best one for large stretches of the year. McRae, Petrarca. Oh, Merritt's. Oh, because he missed a few games. Oh, that's interesting. So what number was he on average? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. He was 8th. So he's right around the mark again, Merritt. And realistically, most of us only had him for the second half of the year where he was actually like probably a 120s or something like that. And then Brayshaw and Cripps just outside. So really, I don't think looking at the mid-only players that there is anyone surprising in here to me. These are all players I'd considered starting for the most part. And there was only one that ended up not doing as well, and that was Steele, because he got injured. I mean, his average still wasn't even that bad. Parrish, I didn't think was a bad starting pick. Like, lost some money, but was okay. Walsh was sad. Like, this is disappointing. So of these, like I think Steele and Walsh are the obvious underpriced ones for next year. Parrish probably is a little bit as well, depending on what happens with Essendon. And there's a lot of these that might be overpriced now. But yeah, like really interesting. I think the mids kind of ended up being most predictable, which seems to be the case year to year, that the mids are the ones you can predict the best. And then, being able to nail defend and forward really helps a lot. It goes a long way. All right, in the ruck, so total points, probably no surprise that Witts took it out. It's played all 22 and averaged well. Gone at number 2 makes sense. Only missed a couple. Clearly next best ruck. Nank, Goldie. Goldie keeps going, man. But like still like a 93 average, not great. Nank at 3 is kind of surprising. He did have a good year a few years ago, but yeah. And then the ones that haven't scored well, like Darcy and Grundy, are the surprises because a lot of people started them. I think my preferred starting lineup this year was Darcy and Grundy. I ended up with Witts when Darcy was laid out and then got off Grundy, obviously. So, yeah, it's really interesting. And then on average, it's gone Witts. English, he missed a lot, but I mean, he's more a forward consideration than ruck anyway. And then Brodie was up there for average, even though he just missed a lot. Yeah, I mean, gone without Jackson next year, depending on who they replace Jackson with, is an interesting option. I think Witts, you probably can't go again. And then we'll see like Marshall, Ryder's retired, but they played Campbell. Darcy's underpriced for what he can produce. English is a hard one to get a read on. Rucks will be interesting to pick from next year again. I think we'll see a few different strategies play out. All right, forward line, the year of the dog for sure. So total points. Wow. Okay. Oh, this is like so crazy. So just quickly looking at these, the only one of the top 7, let's look at the top 7 here, that you wouldn't really have considered starting was Libba. And I guess Bont you wouldn't have considered starting because it was mid-only to start the year and then got forward eligibility. But I know a lot of people started Heaney. I didn't. A lot of people started Brodie. I didn't. These hurt. Parker was a good pickup once he got cheaper in price. Dunkley everyone had. And then Cogs everyone had was obviously very, very good value. Went up lots of money. So funnily enough, the forwards, a lot of people predicted or got close to these forwards for the most part, which is really interesting. Yeah, not having Brodie or Heaney to start the year was not good. And what's interesting is like Heaney, was a top 6 forward that you could have got pretty cheap, and a lot of people did, but traded him out during that slump in the middle of the year and then didn't get his run home where he was really good. So by average, does this change much? I mean, we've got English that pops back up here, but otherwise it's exactly the same. Bailey Smith's a really big disappointment that dropped off. If he still had forward status next year, he'd be strongly considered. I don't think he will. Otherwise, ones that will, like Butters, might still have forward status. Moore should, and he's one that I'm very keen on. Rosie, if he still has forward status, very keen on as well. So yeah, Taranto, if he still has forward status and goes to another club. So it should be a few good forward options just straight off the bat next year, which is really nice to see. And then just quickly, the only other thing I wanted to do was just look at who kind of had the good run home. Look, 5-run average home, because this form home can be a good predictor into next year, especially for breakouts. It's not as useful for someone like, these types up the top, especially like Cripps, this is because Hewitt wasn't playing. Wines is, so Butters, like another contender again next year if he's a forward. It's just durability. It's hard to trust him on. Hearn, nope. Shield, no. That's interesting. Ellis, but like this can be explained by Gold Coast missing their backs. I mean, he's not a breakout anyway. Ed Richards, kind of interesting. 83 average. Noah Anderson, he'll be talked about again next year, no doubt. Rowbottom, not really. LDU, yeah, he'll be one that'll be talked about next preseason. There's really not much else in here. Oh, interesting. There's not too many like breakouts that had a good end to the year. It's a little bit interesting. Hayden Young's one that'll be talked about next year for sure. Okay, well, that was it. It's actually like, I don't know, maybe this is just hindsight working against me, but it's surprising how unsurprising looking at those top of each lines were for next year. But that'll be me for 2022. As I said, I'll be on George's channel doing the podcast over the next month. Might drop in with the occasional video or whatnot. Otherwise, I'll see you next year. Finally, just to leave it off, let me know how you did for the year. Where you ranked? Were you happy? Were you not happy? Best trade, worst trade, if you want to share that type of stuff. Otherwise, if there's players that are on your short list for next year, please let me know who they are. I've already started keeping a little run sheet of those I'm interested in, and I'd love to add, other interesting ones that get mentioned along the way. But yeah, thanks again for all your support, and I'll see you in 2023.